The Diamond Ring Mystery. Chapter 1. A Dream of Greatness. Jack loved mysteries. Ever since he was a small boy, he dreamed of becoming a great detective, just like his hero, Sherlock Holmes. Jack read every Holmes story he could find, and his bedroom was filled with books and posters of the famous detective. Jack even bought a magnifying glass, a detective hat, and a notebook to write clues in. "One day, I'll solve the biggest mystery ever," Jack told himself as he looked in the mirror. "I'll be just like Sherlock Holmes." Jack wanted a partner too. Sherlock Holmes had Dr. Watson, so Jack decided he needed a Watson of his own. One day, he talked to his best friend, Tim. "Tim," Jack said, "I'm going to be a detective, and I need a partner. Will you be my Watson?" Tim laughed. "Sure, Jack. But do I get to wear a cool hat too?" Jack grinned. "Of course. Every detective team needs hats." And so, the adventure began. Chapter 2. Practice Makes Perfect. Jack and Tim spent their weekends pretending to solve mysteries. Jack would create small puzzles for Tim to figure out, and Tim would hide objects for Jack to find. They practiced looking for clues and asking questions. "What's the first rule of being a detective?" Jack asked one day. Tim thought for a moment. "Always look for clues?" Jack nodded. "Exactly. Every detail matters." Soon, their practice turned into small cases. They helped their neighbors find missing keys, lost pets, and even figured out who had left muddy footprints on Mrs. Brown's clean porch. People in their neighborhood started calling them the Detective Duo. "We're getting good at this," Tim said proudly. "But one day, we'll solve a real mystery," Jack said with determination. Chapter 3. The Case of the Missing Ring. One sunny afternoon, Jack and Tim were sitting in their treehouse when Mrs. Adams, their neighbor, ran up to them. She looked very upset. "Jack! Tim! I need your help," she said. "My diamond ring is missing." Jack's eyes lit up. "A real case! Tell us everything, Mrs. Adams." Mrs. Adams explained that the ring was very special. It had a large diamond and was a family heirloom. She always kept it in a small box on her dresser, but this morning the box was empty. "Don't worry, Mrs. Adams," Jack said, standing tall. "We'll solve this mystery." Chapter 4. Gathering Clues. Jack and Tim started their investigation at Mrs. Adams' house. They looked carefully at the dresser and the box where the ring was kept. "No fingerprints," Jack said, peering through his magnifying glass. "But the box was moved. Look at this scratch mark." "What does it mean?" Tim asked. "It means someone touched it. But who?" Next, they questioned Mrs. Adams. "Who else has been in your house?" Jack asked. "Well," Mrs. Adams said, "the gardener was here yesterday, and my sister visited in the evening. But I trust them both." "Interesting," Jack said, writing in his notebook. Tim pointed to the window. "Jack, look! There's dirt on the floor near the window. Maybe someone came in through there." "Good eye, Watson," Jack said. "Let's follow the trail." Chapter 5. Following the Trail. The dirt led to the garden. Jack and Tim searched carefully and found a footprint near the flower bed. "It's too small to be the gardener's," Jack said, comparing it to his own shoe. "But it's fresh." They followed the footprints to the fence, where they noticed a small piece of cloth caught on a nail. "Someone climbed over the fence," Tim said. "Yes," Jack agreed. "And they tore their clothing. This is a clue." Chapter 6: A Mysterious Stranger. Jack and Tim decided to ask the neighbors if they had seen anything unusual. Mr. Green, who lived next door, mentioned seeing a stranger in a gray jacket walking down the street early in the morning. "Did he look suspicious?" Jack asked. "He was in a hurry," Mr. Green said, "and he kept looking over his shoulder." Jack thanked him and wrote it down. A stranger in a gray jacket. That could be our suspect. Chapter 7: A Clever Plan. Jack and Tim decided to set a trap. They spread a rumor around the neighborhood that Mrs. Adams had found her ring and was keeping it in the same box. They hoped the thief would try to steal it again. That night, Jack and Tim hid in Mrs. Adams' garden, waiting and watching. Hours passed, and just when Tim was about to fall asleep, they saw a shadow near the window. "Someone's there," Jack whispered. The figure climbed through the window. Jack and Tim ran to the house and locked the door behind them. They turned on the lights and shouted, "Caught you." Chapter 8: The Truth Revealed. The thief was the stranger in the gray jacket. He confessed to taking the ring and hiding it in the park. He planned to sell it but hadn't had the chance. The police were called, and they found the ring just where the thief said it would be. Mrs. Adams was overjoyed to have her precious ring back. "You boys did an amazing job," she said. "You really are detectives." Chapter 9: A New Beginning. Jack and Tim's success made them famous in the neighborhood. More people came to them with mysteries to solve, and Jack felt closer than ever to his dream of becoming like Sherlock Holmes. "We make a great team," Tim said. "The best," Jack agreed. "On to the next case, Watson." And with that, the detective duo walked off, ready for their next adventure.